My ex-girlfriend wants to stay friends, but I'm starting to think she just wants to keep all the benefits without the relationship. Hey Reddit, I'm a mechanic and not really good with this relationship stuff, so I figured I'd ask you guys for some perspective. This is probably going to be long, sorry in advance. So my girlfriend Haley and I broke up about 3 weeks ago. We'd been together for 2.5 years, and honestly I thought we were heading towards something serious. I was even looking at rings, which feels pretty stupid now that I'm typing it out. The breakup came out of nowhere for me. Haley's an artist. She does these really beautiful paintings and has been trying to get gallery showings and stuff. I've always been super supportive of her art. I helped her set up a home studio in her apartment, bought her canvases and paints when money was tight, drove her to art shows, helped her hang pieces for exhibitions. I loved seeing her passionate about something. But 3 weeks ago, she sat me down and said she needed to focus on her creative journey and that our relationship was limiting her artistic growth. She said she felt like she was becoming too dependent on me and needed to rediscover herself as an independent artist. The whole conversation was full of phrases like that. It felt like she'd been rehearsing it. Here's the thing, though. She kept saying how much she valued me as a person and how I was the only one who truly understood and supported her art. She said she couldn't bear to lose me completely and asked, "Can we just go back to being friends?" She got really emotional about it, saying she needed me in her life and that our connection was too special to throw away over labels. I was pretty heartbroken, but I agreed because, honestly, I still cared about her and didn't want to lose her either. But here's where I'm starting to feel confused and maybe a little used. Since we broke up, literally nothing has changed except we don't sleep together anymore. She still calls me when her car makes weird noises, happened twice already. Last week, her kitchen sink was leaking and she texted me at 11 p.m. asking if I could come fix it because, I'm hopeless with this stuff. I went over and spent 2 hours fixing her plumbing. Then there was the gallery showing situation. She had this opportunity to display her work at a local coffee shop, and she asked me to help her transport the paintings and set everything up. I spent my entire Saturday helping her hang artwork and arrange the display. She kept thanking me and saying how grateful she was to have such a wonderful friend. The money thing is weird too. When we were dating, I often paid for dinners out, helped with her electric bill when she was short on cash, stuff like that. She never asked me directly, but she'd mention how stressed she was about money and I'd offer to help. Since we broke up, she's done the same thing twice. Last week she was talking about how her electric bill was higher than expected and she didn't know how she'd afford groceries. I ended up giving her $150. Her roommate Lucy has been giving me these weird looks lately when I come over to help with stuff. Yesterday, when I was leaving after fixing Haley's car, dead battery, Lucy followed me out and asked if I had a minute to talk. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but then just asked how I was doing and said I seemed like I was handling everything really well. But I could feel there was something more than that. So here's my question, Reddit. Is this normal for post-breakup friendships? Am I being a good friend, or am I being taken advantage of? I still care about Haley a lot, and I want to support her dreams, but something feels off about this whole situation. My buddy Jake thinks I'm being played, and that Haley just wanted to be single while keeping me around as her maintenance guy and ATM. But my sister says maybe Haley really does value our friendship, and I should appreciate that she wants me in her life at all. I'm just confused because this doesn't feel like any friendship I've ever had. With my other friends, we hang out, grab beers, help each other out occasionally. But they don't call me at midnight for emergency repairs or hint about needing money for bills. What do you guys think? Am I overthinking this, or is Jake right that I'm being used? Edit. Holy crap, this blew up while I was at work. Thanks for all the responses. A lot of you are asking about my living situation. I don't live with Haley. I have my own apartment about 20 minutes away. But yeah, I do go over there a lot to help with stuff. More than I go to any of my other friends' places, that's for sure. Update 1. Hey Reddit, So I posted a couple weeks ago about my ex Haley wanting to stay friends but still expecting me to handle all her practical problems. The response was overwhelming and pretty eye-opening. I spent some time thinking about everything you guys said, and I realized you were right. This wasn't a friendship. It was me providing boyfriend services without getting any of the actual relationship benefits. So I decided to make some changes. First, I want to give you some context I probably should have included in my original post. I've been thinking about expanding my repair shop. I currently rent a small bay in a larger garage, but there's an opportunity to lease my own space closer to the industrial district where I could specialize in fleet maintenance for local businesses. The space is about 40 minutes from where I currently live, but only 15 minutes from where I grew up, and it would cut my rent in half while tripling my potential income. I've been putting off the move because Haley always said she'd be so sad if I lived farther away, and when we were together, I wanted to be close to her. But after our conversation in the comments on my last post, I realized this was the perfect time to make the move. So last Friday, I called Haley and told her I was going to lease the new space and move closer to it. I explained it was a great business opportunity and I'd be moving in about 3 weeks. The reaction was intense. She immediately started crying and asking why I was abandoning her. She said she thought we agreed to stay close friends and that moving away felt like I was punishing her for the breakup. She kept saying things like, "I thought you understood that I need you in my life, and you know I can't handle everything on my own." That last part really hit me. When I asked what she meant, she said, "Well, I've been counting on you to help me with all the practical stuff. You know I'm not good at adulting like you are. You're so much better at real-world things than I am." She mentioned the upcoming art fair she's participating in and how she'd been planning on me helping her set up her booth and transport her pieces. I told her I was happy to stay friends, but that friendship doesn't mean I'm on call 24/7 for car trouble and home repairs. I said friends help each other out occasionally, but what she was describing sounded more like hiring a handyman. She got really upset and said I was being cold and making everything about money, when she'd never asked for anything unreasonable. She said she thought I cared about her art and her dreams. I told her I do care about her success, but that caring about someone doesn't mean being responsible for solving all their problems. I said if she needed help with moving art pieces for the art fair, she should hire someone or ask multiple friends to chip in. The conversation ended with her saying she was disappointed in me and that she thought I was better than this. She said she needed time to think about whether we could really be friends if I was going to put conditions on everything. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Lucy, Haley's roommate, texted me the next day. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee, which was weird because we'd never hung out one-on-one before. I said sure, and we met up Sunday morning. Lucy basically confirmed everything you guys said in my last post. She told me she'd been watching this whole friendship situation, and it was making her uncomfortable. She said Haley talked about me like I was her emergency contact for everything, and that it wasn't fair to me. Apparently, after the call Friday night, Haley immediately started calling other friends asking who could help her move art pieces and whether anyone knew a cheap mechanic. Lucy said Haley seemed genuinely shocked that she'd need to figure these things out herself. But here's the part that really got to me. Lucy said Haley had been telling people that I was still basically her boyfriend, just without the title, and that she had me wrapped around her finger. She even showed me a text Haley sent to a mutual friend that said, "Don't worry about Finn, he'll always come running when I need him. Some things never change, breakup or not." Lucy said she kept quiet because she thought maybe I was okay with the arrangement. But after seeing how Haley reacted to me moving away, she realized Haley was taking advantage of me. The more Lucy and I talked, the more I realized how messed up this whole situation had become. Lucy said she'd been trying to encourage Haley to be more independent and handle her own problems, but Haley always said things like, "Why should I struggle with car stuff when Finn is so good at it?" Or, it's not like Finn minds helping me. Except nobody ever asked if I minded. It was just assumed. Since that conversation with Lucy, I've been reflecting on our relationship even when we were together. I'm realizing Haley always positioned herself as the creative, dreamy one who was above practical concerns, while I was the practical, reliable one who handled everything else. At the time, I thought it was a good balance, but now I'm wondering if she just didn't want to deal with adult responsibilities. The kicker came yesterday. Haley called me because her car was making that noise again. When I said I was busy and suggested she take it to a shop, she got frustrated and said, "I thought you cared about my safety." I told her I do care about her safety, which is exactly why she should have proper brake work done at a real shop instead of ignoring the problem. She said she couldn't afford a mechanic right now, and I suggested she prioritize car maintenance over art supplies. She hung up on me. I'm moving in 2 weeks, and honestly, I'm starting to look forward to it more than I expected. I'm excited about my business prospects, but I'm also excited about having some distance from this whole situation. I still care about Haley, but I'm finally understanding what you guys meant about self-respect and boundaries. A real friend wouldn't expect me to put my life on hold to be their personal problem solver. Lucy and I have been texting a bit since our coffee meeting, which is nice. She's actually really cool to talk to, and it's refreshing to have conversations with someone who doesn't end every interaction by asking me to fix something or drive somewhere. Anyway, thanks again for all the advice. I'll probably update again after I move and see how Haley handles actually being independent. Update 2. Hey Reddit, back with another update on the Haley situation. I moved to my new place 3 weeks ago, and let me tell you, it's been enlightening. First, the good news, my business is already doing better than I expected. I landed a contract maintaining delivery trucks for a local company, and I've got steady work lined up for the next 6 months. The new shop space is perfect, and I'm actually enjoying the work more without the constant interruptions I was getting before. Living closer to where I grew up has been great too. I've been hanging out with my old high school buddies again, and it's reminded me what normal friendships actually look like. We help each other out when needed, but nobody's calling anybody at midnight demanding emergency assistance. But let's talk about Haley, because this situation has gotten pretty wild. The week I moved, she called me 4 times. First, her car broke down. The brake issue I'd warned her about finally happened. When I told her I was 45 minutes away and she should call a tow truck, she got upset and said she couldn't afford towing. I suggested she call AAA or one of her other friends. She said none of her friends knew about cars like I did. 2 days later, she called because her bathroom sink was clogged. Again, I told her I was too far away to help and suggested she call a plumber or try some Drano. She said she'd tried everything and really needed someone who knew what they were doing. The third call was about helping her move paintings to an art fair that weekend. When I explained I couldn't drive 45 minutes each way to help with the move, she accused me of abandoning her when she needed me most. She said she'd been counting on my help, and now she might have to miss the fair entirely. The fourth call was the kicker. She wanted me to co-sign for a credit card because she needed to build credit, and I had always been so supportive of her financial goals. When I said absolutely not, she cried and said she thought we were friends and friends help each other out. I finally told her that while I wished her well, I couldn't be her go-to solution for every problem anymore. I said she needed to build a support network that didn't rely on one person handling everything. She hung up on me and didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. But Lucy kept me updated on how things were going, and honestly, it's been a mess. Without me as her backup plan, Haley's had to face a lot of reality checks. The car situation turned into a whole thing. She ended up having to pay for towing and an expensive emergency brake repair because she'd ignored the problem for so long. Lucy said Haley was furious about the cost and kept saying I could have fixed it for much less money. For the art fair, Haley had to ask several friends to help with transport, and apparently it was a complicated process coordinating multiple people's schedules. Lucy said Haley complained the whole time about how much easier it used to be when she could just call me. The sink got fixed when Lucy finally got fed up and called a plumber herself. Lucy paid for it and told Haley she could pay her back. Haley was annoyed about spending money on something she said was simple maintenance. But the real wake-up call came last week. Haley's been struggling to manage her monthly expenses without my occasional financial help. Lucy told me Haley had been asking friends for small loans, and it was starting to strain her other relationships. Apparently, Haley owes money to 3 different people now, and some of them are getting frustrated about repayment. Lucy said she finally had a serious conversation with Haley about taking responsibility for her own life. Lucy pointed out that Haley is 28 years old and needs to learn basic adulting skills instead of relying on other people to handle everything for her. The conversation apparently got pretty intense. Lucy told Haley that expecting one person to be available for every emergency wasn't friendship, it was dependence. She said Haley needed to learn to solve problems herself or build a broader support network instead of putting everything on one person. Haley didn't take it well. She accused Lucy of turning against her and said everyone was being unreasonably harsh when she was just going through a difficult transition. At one point, Haley suddenly broke down crying and admitted she'd never really learned how to handle practical stuff because there was always someone willing to do it for her. First her parents, then her college boyfriend, then me. And now that there was no one, she was genuinely lost. Lucy just told her it was time for her to figure it out herself. Surprisingly, Haley actually started trying to handle things herself after that conversation. Lucy said Haley spent a whole day watching YouTube videos about basic car maintenance and home repairs. She's been asking Lucy to teach her how to budget properly. She even signed up for AAA so she'd have roadside assistance. Lucy said it's been hard to watch because Haley is genuinely struggling with tasks that most people learn in their early 20s. But Lucy also said she can see Haley starting to feel proud of herself when she successfully handles something on her own. As for me, I've been doing really well. Not having to be on call for someone else's emergencies has given me so much mental energy back. I've been working out more, sleeping better, and actually enjoying my free time instead of wondering when the next crisis call was coming. I've also been hanging out with Lucy more when I'm in town for work stuff. She's been a good friend through all this, and it's nice to have someone who understands the whole situation. We went to dinner last weekend and spent the whole night talking about everything and nothing. A few people have asked if there's something developing between Lucy and me romantically. Honestly, I'm not sure yet. There's definitely some chemistry there, but I'm taking things slow. I want to make sure I'm in a good headspace after the Haley situation before I think about dating anyone. Haley did text me a few days ago. She said she was learning to be more independent and apologized for putting too much pressure on our friendship. She said she hoped we could talk soon and maybe rebuild things in a healthier way. I appreciated the apology, but I'm not sure what kind of relationship we'll have going forward. I don't trust that the changes are permanent, and I'm not willing to go back to being her emergency contact for everything. For now, I only want to focus on my business and figure out my own life. Final update. Hey Reddit, figured I'd give you guys one last update since so many of you have been following this story. It's been about 3 months since my breakup with Haley, and I can honestly say I'm a completely different person now. The business is thriving beyond my expectations. I just hired my first employee and I'm looking at a second location next year. But more importantly, I finally understand what healthy relationships look like. Let me start with Haley news, since I know you're curious. About a month ago, she reached out and asked if we could meet for coffee when I was in town. I was hesitant, but Lucy encouraged me to hear her out, so I agreed. Haley looked really different when I saw her, more tired but also more grounded, I guess. She immediately apologized for how she'd handled our breakup and the aftermath. She said she'd been doing a lot of thinking, and had started seeing a therapist to work on what she called her learned helplessness. She admitted that she'd never really been forced to handle adult responsibilities before, and had always found someone else to take care of practical things for her. She said the therapist helped her understand that she'd been treating me like a parent figure rather than a partner, and that wasn't fair to either of us. Haley told me she'd spent the last 2 months learning basic life skills: budgeting, car maintenance, home repairs, dealing with service providers. She said it was harder than she expected, but also more empowering. She seemed genuinely proud when she told me she'd handled a plumbing emergency entirely on her own. She also apologized for trying to maintain all the relationship benefits while calling it friendship. She said she understood now that she'd been asking me to sacrifice my own growth and opportunities to keep her comfortable, and that wasn't something a real friend would do. I appreciated the apology, and I could tell it was genuine. We talked for about an hour, and for the first time since I'd known her, Haley asked me about my business, my goals, my life, instead of just talking about her problems. It was actually nice. We ended things on a good note. Haley said she hoped we could be real friends someday, but she understood if I needed more time and space. I told her I respected the work she was doing on herself and wished her well. We haven't talked since then, but Lucy tells me Haley is doing well and has started dating someone new, someone she's not treating as her personal problem solver. Now for the more important news: Lucy and I are together now, and it's incredible how different this relationship feels. We took things really slow. For the first month after I moved, we just talked and hung out as friends. But I started to realize that Lucy was someone I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. Our conversations are about mutual interests, shared goals, current events, funny stories from work. When we hang out, we do things we both enjoy instead of me providing services while she appreciates it. When one of us has a problem, we brainstorm solutions together instead of one person automatically fixing everything for the other. The difference is night and day. Lucy has her own car, maintains it herself, handles her own finances, and deals with her own problems. When she does ask for help, it's specific, reasonable, and reciprocal. Like last week, she helped me move some heavy equipment at the shop, and I helped her set up a new computer. Normal friend-partner stuff. But what really gets me is how much Lucy supports my ambitions. She asks about my business goals, celebrates my successes, and gives me space to work on my dreams. With Haley, I always felt like my goals were secondary to her needs. With Lucy, I feel like we're both working toward building something together. We made things official about 3 weeks ago, and I've never felt more confident about a relationship. Lucy and I complement each other without either of us becoming dependent on the other. We both have our own lives, interests, and responsibilities, but we choose to share them. The funny thing is, I'm actually a better partner now because I learned to set boundaries. I still love helping the people I care about, but I do it because I want to, not because someone expects it or can't function without it. And Lucy appreciates my help instead of treating it like a given. Haley, to her credit, told Lucy she was happy for us and that she could see we were good for each other. Looking back on everything, I'm actually grateful for how things worked out. If Haley hadn't broken up with me, I might have stayed in that unbalanced relationship indefinitely. I wouldn't have moved my business, wouldn't have learned to set boundaries, and wouldn't have met Lucy as anything more than my girlfriend's roommate. Thanks for all the advice and support, Reddit. Time to close this chapter and write a new one.